The Children and the Witch, written by Nigel Green. Once upon a time, there were a group of children who played together in a forest. There were a large number of them, some taller than others and some were a bit older than others, and normally the girls were a little bit cleverer than the boys, but despite this, they were all good friends and always played happily together. They had marvellous games. The forest was so big that there were so many places to hide when they played hide and seek. And then again, there were many flower-covered clearings which were good for races. And there was a shallow river running through the forest, and that was very popular with the children too. But if the children were happy playing in the forest, the witch was not, because she hated children. She lived alone in her tumble-down cottage right in the middle of the forest, and when she heard the laughter of the children as they played, she used to cover her ears in fury at their happiness. The witch tried endless spells to try and drive the children away. She and her black cat brewed numerous foul-smelling cauldrons and chanted hundreds of spells, but none of them worked. And each day the children's play became happier and noisier. This could have gone on forever, but one day the witch had a bright idea. She thought about it carefully as she rubbed the warts on her chin, and then she called her black cat, who was asleep on the witch's broomstick, and explained the idea to him. The cat thought about it, his green eyes gleaming. "So, you think that if we can get the children to quarrel amongst themselves, they will not want to play together?" he purred. The witch nodded. "Exactly," said the witch. "All we have to do is make them jealous of one another, and then they will start to hate each other." The cat smiled in agreement. "Then they won't come to play in the forest," he agreed. The next day, the children were walking through the forest on their way to their various homes when they met the witch. They stopped nervously because, while they pretended not to be, they were all rather frightened of her. But the witch smiled at the children. "You have had a long day playing in the forest," she said pleasantly. "I bet you're all hungry now, aren't you?" The children looked at her uncertainly. Now that Witch mentioned it, none of them had had any lunch, and yes, they were a bit hungry. No, on second thoughts, they were more than hungry, they were starving. "Poor things," said the witch sympathetically. "Now just come with me." The children followed her obediently until they came to a little clearing, and then they stopped in amazement. For at the other side of the little field, there was a huge table overflowing with food. And what a feast it was! There were jellies, meringues, fruit and sweets such as the children had never seen before. The children's eyes glistened as they licked their lips. The witch watched them and she smiled secretly. Her black cat purred approvingly. "Now," said the witch, "we will have a race. The first boy and the first girl to reach the food can eat it all." The children all looked at each other. John, the eldest boy, always won races, and Mary, the tallest girl, usually beat the other girls. "But what about the others?" Mary asked the witch. "They get nothing," cackled the witch. "But just think how happy the winners will be." John and Mary exchanged glances and then nodded to each other. Quietly, they began to organize the others into a line as if to start the race for the food. "Think how happy the winners will be," the witch encouraged them. And then she turned round and began to walk to the food. When she arrived at the table, she turned round to face the line of children. "Right," she shouted. "Ready, Steady! Go! And she turned round to move to the other side of the table, ready to award the food to the two winners. A moment later, she looked up in amazement. She had been expecting to see the children running as fast as they could towards her, but instead, the children were all holding hands and walking toward the table. Presently, they all arrived at the table in a perfectly straight line. But what are you doing? Demanded the witch. John looked at her steadily. You said the winners would be happy, he asked. The witch nodded dumbly. Mary stepped forward. Well, how can the winners be happy if they know that their friends are going to be unhappy? She demanded. And at that, the children began to share out the food between them. And the evil witch, her plan ruined, fled away. And to this day, those children still play in the forest. The end.